Alane Boyd, you are the co-founder of Biggest Goal, found on the web at biggestgoal.ai. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Catherine.
Tell me a little bit about Biggest Goal, please.
This has been a journey for the past, I guess, 6 years now. I started this, my co-founder and I started it coming out of an exit. We sold our very large social media agency in 2018 and started consulting on operations and tech and different things. And so it's evolved. And what it is today is we go in and help companies streamline and automate their operations.
Well, there is a plethora of businesses out there that could benefit from this.
It's funny that you say that. I was so naive 6 years ago because my co-founder and I are talking and he goes, we really built some great systems at our other company, which is why we got acquired. We had such a well-oiled machine with 125 employees. And he said, maybe other businesses need what we did, where we go in and help streamline everything and put in automation. And I'm like, do you really think there's enough businesses that need that? And, they all need it in different ways, but there really is a core there that we're not good at everything. Some businesses are awesome at selling and their operations have suffered as they've been trying to scale. And so we did realize that there's definitely a market out there.
That's fantastic. So is there a certain size business or a certain area of the country that tends to have the most opportunity for your area of expertise, or what are you seeing?
So we cater to clients all over the world, and as long as they're English speaking, but there are some trends, and we really do focus at a foundation that they use ClickUp, Asana, or Monday as their project management system. And then after that, we can connect those project management systems with any of their other software. So that's how we kind of niche down. And then size of company, definitely, a founder with maybe a VA doesn't have the same problems or budget as a company with 30 employees that has multiple departments. So we do tend to see that our clients are 2 to 4 million in revenue as a baseline. They've got several employees. And then our largest client is about 750 million in revenue. And when we start looking at it at a company that size, we're really working with departments. Mm-hmm. And you start to see the same trend. This department uses this software. They're this size, their budget is 2 to 5 million. You're seeing these same kind of trends extrapolated across larger companies.
Fascinating. So you built a company that had great systems and processes, and now you decided to go and do this, or you were acquired and you're doing this. Talk about that transition. Was it just natural and smooth and not a bump in the road, or what was that like?
Nothing in business is natural and smooth, I don't think. No, it was a lot of learning. So my previous company, we had for about 11 or 12 years. And we fell into a niche with car dealerships. So we did social media reputation management for car dealerships and built 2 software platforms along with it to support them. And I didn't want to keep doing that, which is why I sold. But I really did I built our first automations there because I saw, the salesperson sells a new auto group, and then they spend hours transitioning them to the account manager. And so I automated all of it between one deal in Pipedrive to new client onboarding in Asana, and wrote those in Zapier. And so, this has definitely been a journey because AI now has come out a couple of years ago. How do we incorporate that? What does it look like to not saturate yourself with too many platforms and just focus on some core ones and some core systems? So, in the beginning, it was a lot more consultative where, I was just doing consultations with clients. And then I got to where, okay, now we know some systems in our own business. Let's hire people. I don't want to do the day-to-day stuff. I'm really not great at the day-to-day things. And it kind of starts to burn me out. So I like to develop a system and then delegate and have other people run it. And so that's actually been my favorite part of the business, is just getting to a point where I don't have to do from sales to client fulfillment. But it was not an easy road. And the 6 years since I launched this, it's evolved quite a bit in a great way, I'd say too.
Talk about that. Like, was it just you and your co-founder in the beginning, or how? And you said you started with the consulting and you know a few of the platforms. Um, can you talk about that 6 year overnight success?
Yeah, yeah. The it was us sort of. We did hire some contract VA virtual assistants to help us with some stuff, and then if we got a client, there would be some things that we could have a VA do. So we did have some support. We utilized Upwork a ton with finding assistants and anywhere in the world. So that really did help too with just keeping things moving along. At that time, I had a 3-year-old son. And so after I sold, I really just wanted to be able to spend time with him and not always feel like I'm stretched to capacity, beyond capacity every single day. So I didn't want to overload myself. And that's really the gift. I always say it's the gift that I gave myself because I worked so hard to build that company and was in a position that I didn't need to work. And so I could just enjoy my life with my family and, build a business that I didn't have to work every day, all day to the bone again. But those days, and then, trying to figure out what you want to sell. It's one thing to say, I'm going to come in and help you with your operations. That can look a lot different for every company. And now that has changed to, okay, at a core, we work with clients that use Asana, ClickUp, or Monday. And we help you build automated workflows in that. And then after that, we will build automation with your CRM, with your shared drive, those kind of things. And so that really did make a huge difference in how we sell, how we communicate what we do, and be able to build a team under it. Because if you're selling your knowledge, like I was in the beginning, I'm selling my knowledge. That is very different selling a company than an employee that doesn't have that same background. So I couldn't just keep selling my knowledge. I needed something that could scale.
So that's where the systems, the people, the processes, that's where all of that's coming in.
Yeah, that's where we started to fine tune, just sticking with, a core group of things that we did. And then we could train employees on what it is that we do. I really focus on training and development in the beginning, because not everybody, you hire people, they've got some knowledge, but most of them don't have 100% of the knowledge that you've created at your company. So there needs to be some training. And some of that can even just be like, we use ClickUp as a project management system. They may not have ever used that one. So we need to train them on how we communicate, how we manage things. And then we have some training too that we've built on common systems that we've built for clients, just to give a baseline.
As a small business owner myself, I've used ClickUp and Asana. I think we've used Monday. Like, we've just tried different ones. And I came from a corporate background, 20 plus years, just doing like big projects. And when we brought in a customer, I was in banking, who kept $500 million in cash. Like, there's just a lot of stuff when you have to open up systems to allow this data to flow. And so I understood the project management on the big banking scale and the importance of it and the project managers that came with it. And then from the small business aspect, so now I'm in this world and I'm like, oh my God, there's platforms out there that are beautiful and that are really intuitive to use, like the ones that you're talking about, ClickUp and Asana and Monday. And there's great resources available to be able to manage the business, because so many businesses, and I coach a lot of people in there, and I'm like, so what's the workflow? What's the process? Where are your SOPs? And they're like, yeah, we don't really have it. We have a book, but nobody reads the book. And I'm like, well, we don't need that. So it needs to get into a queue, and we need to assign, who's the owner for this, and accountability is so huge with it. So what you're talking about doing is like what big corporate, global, everybody is doing, but you're applying it to these businesses that are in less than 10 million, but go up to probably $1 billion in revenue, and you're giving them the skills that they probably didn't even know existed to make everybody's life easier. Like, it just seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's sometimes there has to be some education, but a lot of times, just like you said, like I've tried Asana and I've tried ClickUp, like I've done things. A
Mhm.
lot of them have seen like, okay, there's some capabilities here, but I need some help. You know, I don't know how to build a workflow. I know how to use it as task management, but it is definitely what you just said. And there's a reason these corporations got so big. If they didn't have systems to follow, then they could have never scaled it to that size, to a multi-billion dollar organization. And so, when we're looking at being a small company and how can we get past being a founder led only company, it's these systems. And one of the common things that I will get asked, if I'm just chatting with a solo founder, it's them and maybe they have a contract VA or something, is, well, when does it make sense to use one of these platforms? I'm like, the day you started, because maybe you don't know what your workflow is yet. That's okay. You're a startup,
Mhm.
or it's just you don't have a workflow yet, but you have tasks that need to get done. And one day I bet you'd like to delegate that to somebody else, so you're not doing every single thing. So if you start now, if you don't have one, start now, then you have a building place to go from. You can start putting, even in the description of the task, a loose SOP, a standard operating procedure, do these 4 things to get this task done. It really helps develop that practice, so that when you have time or you have the capacity to hire somebody, it's already there.
Yeah. It gives me a flashback when I started what I'm doing now. I sat at the dining room table with a laptop and I taught a college student what I was doing because I didn't want to do it. Once it gets repetitive, I'm lost my interest. So I taught her
Mhm.
how to do it and she's taking notes. And I said, look, I just need you to write it all down exactly step by step of what you're doing. Cause I knew she was only going to be here for a few more months. And then she was going back to college. And I was like, and then that'll be my SOPs, ugly and just uber simple, right? Just like what you just
Yes.
said. But then I can turn that into a job description and
Mhm.
post it on Upwork and they know exactly what to do. And I don't have to re explain anything.
Oh my gosh, you are so brilliant. And I love that example. And technology now with Loom and AI, now we can
Yeah.
record us doing the process and walk somebody through. Now you have a recording of it, and then you can take that transcript, run it
Mhm.
through AI, and say, hey, will you build me a step by step process? Now you have text writing and a video, and you have an SOP for the next person. And I love the idea of taking that and then say, hey, will you create me a job description for this process? That's brilliant.
I'm just lazy. I'm like, oh, figured it out. Don't
No,
want to do
that's
it
not
anymore.
lazy at all. That needs to be shared with the world.
I talked to all my clients about it and they're like, oh, yeah, we should do that. And then nobody does, they just go back to putting the fires out. It's so easy to live in a very responsive world versus a
Mhm.
proactive world. Do you see that with where you are? And what are your thoughts around that? And how do you shift from, or how do you get people to shift from what I would say is just reactive to proactive and intention?
Yeah, it becomes a breaking point for that founder, is what happens. And it's when the pain gets to the point where you can't take it anymore, because that does happen. It's one of the easiest things is to, do what we just said. Like, you don't even have to be the one to write the process. They can write it for you if you can articulate it, whether that's a video or they're just sitting down with you. But what happens is, once you get to too many employees, and that can be 10, that could be 20, but always by 30, if you don't have these things by 30 employees, you're just like, I can't do this anymore. There's so many questions that I can't do anything in my day. And that's that tipping point is, okay, fine, I'll work 10 hours, 12 hours a day. I'll keep working. I'll keep working. And then that founder is like, you know what? Actually, I can't do this anymore. And that's, we're fine with that. We like working with them because then they're very open minded. They're at the point that they're like, okay, what can I do to change? Because I'm here with you now. It's the ones that don't know the pain that are actually the most difficult ones. Just like you said, they'll just go back to being reactive. Well, then they're not at a point in their mindset to be able to change. So that's fine. We'll be here when you're ready, 2 years down the road, 4 years down the road, or you can keep working yourself to death and suffer from chronic stress.
Yes. So are you familiar with chronic stress?
Very, very, very. Yes, yes.
What are your words of wisdom around managing that?